Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the Real Life Process Podcast. It is great to be back with you. So excited. We're coming into some springtime weather here on the farm in Southern Illinois. And here at the Real Life Process, we are just so excited to be working with all of you and have you listening in to the podcast today. And just love the shift that we're having in seasons. It's exciting to see the change of seasons and the change of weather. I don't know for you, but that gets me excited as well. And on this episode, I really want to share with you some shifts and changes that you may have heard about last week on the podcast, or if you're part of our email list community or in our Facebook community, LinkedIn, all the places that we're involved, Instagram, you may have seen and heard a big shift and announcement that we came out with on March the 1st. And I just want to dive into that a little bit more. Last week on the podcast, I actually had some special guests with me, Sybil Towner, who is my personal spiritual director, and Sharon Swing, a good friend of mine, and also one of our team members, Lindsay Sturkey, joined me on the podcast last week to talk about the tool of oneLife Maps. And oneLife Maps is a tool that I've been using in my own life for a very, very long time. It's been a transformational tool for me in actually even helping to form and shape the tools that we have here and the content of the Real Life Process. And we are having the amazing opportunity to bring the tool of oneLife Maps underneath the umbrella of the Real Life Process business. So our company, our LLC, is going to be bringing this tool underneath our umbrella in the operations standpoint, in the promotion of this tool, and in partnering with Sharon and with Sybil and Joan Kelly, another on their team, and several other team members that they have to really take oneLife Maps and the business of Listen to My Life underneath our wing and help to promote this tool. And it mirrors, and if you listen to last week's podcast and even read through our email, it just mirrors and partners with and merges with our content so well, the 4 components of our process. It's a beautiful companion tool to our process, but yet it stands alone all by itself to help bring clarity and discernment and understanding and decision making in how your life story impacts the way you live today. So these life maps, these big maps that come in a set of 8, can be used by coaches and spiritual directors and people as a tool for understanding yourself and your part in kind of God's larger story. And then deciding what you might do. So you hear some themes there, the being and the doing, to live a life that's more of an expression of who God created you to be. And so it just partners so well with our content. But I want to talk to you today from my heart. Last week you heard from all of us. And as Lindsay Sturkey from our team is kind of leading this Listen to My Life and this oneLife Maps part, you heard from her, you heard from Sybil and from Sharon and from myself, kind of the bigger picture and just our friendship and our desire to lead this well. But I want you to hear from my heart here on my podcast about how this aligns even with our values. If you remember, I did a podcast episode, if you've been listening for a while, just a few episodes back in the new year here in 2023, about how I wanted to show up on the podcast with our 4 core values, which are be present, be real, create impact, and bring joy. And I want to talk about this tool of oneLife Maps and how it aligns so well with those things. So I want to dive in first with being present. So the maps as a tool, much like our content, so in partnership with our content, you might meet the oneLife Maps first and then say, wow, I want to live this out in some practical ways through the process. Or you might come to the process first and the content that we have, and then either through a coach or through your own doing or through somebody that facilitates the maps, might lean into the maps. Either way, they're both great places to start. But being present is what they help you do. Looking at your desires. And one of the things, I actually just got off recording on a summit, a virtual summit that I'm going to be on. And I just can't get away when I'm talking to people about the fact that we as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as ministry leaders, whatever we're doing, we have to do our own work, as we call it, first. We have to be present. We have to know our real self. These maps are a tool that helps you do that, much like our components are, much like the tool of the Enneagram can help in that way, much like needs and values can help in that way. So that be present value that we have not only talks about being present in the moment and showing up, and which is something we want to do here at the process, but also being present to yourself. And so these tools just align so well with that. The second one is being real. So many times when we're trying to work on personal development and self-growth and, what does God have for us? What is the deeper spiritual journey that we might be on? Then there are places where we have to become very real with ourselves, very honest about those things, and really dig in a little bit. One of the maps that's in the 8 map series is a map number 2 called My Life Story. And I love this map. I'm not going to say it's an easy one to do, but as you map out the highs and lows, the places in your stories where you felt God's presence, where you felt maybe some distance from God, where you saw God's movement, where there might have been pain, there might have been hard things as well, but there might have been seasons of great joy, then you can map those out. You begin to see patterns and stories in your life that you can discern. And there's just great questions, whether you're a coach, a spiritual director, whether you're doing them on your own. It can be a self-guided experience, but it will really get down to the realness and the core and invite you into those places. And then we would recommend that you actually then take the components of the process and begin to implement it into your everyday life. What would what I've discovered impact in my everyday life? Which is the next value that we have here at the process, is creating impact. So these maps in these series of these 8 experiences, where am I at right now? What do I know from my story in map number 2? What are some peak experiences? What are some valley experiences? How do I align and order my days, which is very similar in some ways to a different look from a spiritual perspective at our component number 3, which is real life time. And then, as you work through all the maps and get to how do I move forward, that's that last map. There's just some beautiful, beautiful places to look through. So there are 8 individual maps that you can really get real around and begin to create what we call that modern day rule of life. And I talk about that in the book, of creating those rhythms and those patterns and those routines that you can come into. That is where that value, that third value of creating impact, now you're ready. You're ready to go out. You've looked through and listened to your life, and you're ready. So we love these tools because in the end, it really leans into that discovery of a more joy-filled life, a life that God is inviting you to for meaningful action, for spiritual growth. And that is joy-filled. When you're sitting in that place of, is there something more? And you do the discovery through the maps, through the process of the components and say, there is. And, you're at that crossroads and asking kind of, where am I going? And then you find the direction, and that brings joy and creates joy. And so we really are excited about this tool from a practical standpoint of how it aligns and how it partners with the work we're already doing. It's not something new and different. And as we talked about on the podcast last week, you are not going to see a lot of different things change in either space, either here at the process or on the Listen to My Life. You will over time, but it will be a while, and we'll keep you up to date and we'll let you know. But we do invite you to not only check out the reallifeprocess.com, but check out Listen to My Life and just look at the tools. Maybe you'll want to get one map. Maybe you'll want to download an entire set, purchase an entire set. Maybe you'll want to download on that site. We have some free downloads. There's so much content there. They actually have a podcast that they've done that there's several evergreen recordings of. And we will keep you in the loop as to how things are coming together between the two tools. And we are putting those things together on the back end. We will have some upcoming things going on later in the year that will be some live things that you can attend and come to. Whether you're already a part of the process work or whether you're looking at from the Listen to My Life side and you're coming over to the process work, as we merge together these two beautiful pieces of tools that you can have in your life to work with and recognize God's story in your life and actually create that rule of life. What do I want to say yes to? What do I want to say no to? What am I leaning into? So just like the process, these are things that you can do on your own. You can do them one-to-one. You can do them in a small group, a large group, all kinds of ways. And you may even be drawn to facilitate these tools, whether it's the process or the Listen to My Life. So come on board with us, be a part of where this is moving and where this is going. I just wanted to follow up personally this week on the podcast to invite you to those things. I just wanted to follow up personally myself here on the podcast to invite you to those things and just say, lean in with us. We don't know exactly what this is going to look like, but we're excited about it. I just finished up last week for our audience, actually, a masterclass that I did on the 5 C's of building a thriving coaching business, which also applies to ministry leaders and spiritual directors and entrepreneurs and all those types of things. But in that class, we talked about this thriving business that you can build. And we actually introduced in that class our 2023 certification program, and that we have actually switched that program up just a bit to be a 6-month certification. So in that first 6 months, we're getting you certified, getting all the tools to you. And I want to say here on the podcast that one of those things that we're doing this year, and this year only for our 2023 people, is also bringing them into deep training on the maps. So as part of that 6-month certification, you'll get some follow-up training and knowledge and information and things around the tool of the oneLife maps. Only this year are we doing that as we're merging and bringing these two things together. So if that interests you, this might be the time to look at our certification in our content. It's a 6-month program. We do have a second 2023 program that you can do that's a year long, that does include more business building and training and community and things. But if you're looking for, I need a condensed certification around the content, I also want to dive into the maps. As a follow-up to that, this is the year to come in and be a part of that and be able to take in all of that. We're just kind of grandfathering those people in. So now's the time to come and be a part of the Real Life Process community and facilitators, if that's a tool that you can put in your tool belt to use our content in the work that you do as a coach, a spiritual director, a ministry leader, now's the time because you're going to get the benefit of all of these programs. We want to support you in all the ways that we possibly can through coaching and community and content and certification and just coming alongside you in those ways for the work that you have to do. And this tool of Listen to My Life is going to be another huge part of that for us here at the Real Life Process. So check out, come along for the ride. Make sure you're on our email list. Keep listening to the podcast. If you haven't picked up a copy of the book that came out November 1st that I wrote of Do What Matters, Live from Rest, Not Rush, that will give you a great taste into who we are and what we do and what this content, these 4 components of, real life being and real life action and real life time and real life living are all about, and what all that involves and what that process is. Just keep hanging with us. We love you, and we are so appreciative to have you along for the journey into living our best life every single day. And so remember that every day does have something extraordinary in it. You just have to look for them. And I'll be back next week. I've got some guests coming up in the next coming up episodes here on the podcast, and I'm excited to share those with you. And I will be back next week with more from the Real Life Process podcast. Have a great day, everyone.